This is Robert Clotworthy, the narrator of The Curse of Oak Island, and I have a question for you. Could it be that you are listening to The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream?
This is a top pocket find, mate, for sure.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. I am your host, Jeff Freeman, and tonight I am surrounded by all these great guys, Jack Campbell, John Edwards, and Colin Jamieson. Welcome, guys.
Welcome.
Thanks for being here tonight. This, again, we went through quite an interesting show again last night. We got a lot to talk about for sure, and we'll be getting to that here in just a few minutes, but I wanted to say, if I could, just getting started here. If you're out there on the YouTube side, please click on that subscribe button for us. It helps us out a lot. And if you like our content, give us a thumbs up. It does help us out. And it kind of lets us know how we're doing and get a gauge on things like that. We appreciate that very much. Also, if you'd like to help support the show, we have our Patreon channel. It's patreon.com and it's /jfree906 out there as well. So you can help if you'd like. Looking at who we got. Oh, Tom Burns is out there. Hey, Tom, helping out. Tom's doing his new duties out there as our moderator. And of course,
on the night with us tonight too. Hello.
Hey.
All right, we got Paula. Let's see who we got. Okay. Hi, Paula. And let's see, Jenny's out there with us. Kate. Hi, Kate. How you doing?
Hey, Kate.
I can definitely second for Tom when he said it's a snowy Maritimes. It's definitely a lot of snow on Oak Island tonight. Holy smoke.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, somebody said it's cold Michigan. I saw cold Michigan come up. Who was that? Somebody said something about cold. I'm not in Michigan. I'm from Michigan, but I'm not up there right now.
I think above Ann Arbor they have snow today, Jeff.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes. They can stay up above Ann Arbor, and I'm happy. Believe me.
Seth Bound. Hey, Seth Bound. How you doing? That's a new name I haven't seen before. Welcome. Karen. Oh, it was Karen. Karen Falbo said, greetings from cold Michigan. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's actually kind of cold here, too. That's for sure. Here in Western Pennsylvania. So welcome, everybody, coming on to the show tonight. Appreciate you guys coming by. And feel free to light up the chat with whatever you like to talk about. So we're going to kind of get into it. And again, welcome to our everybody back. Jack over here supporting his rock hat that he got.
Awesome.
Looks good. I got mine sitting over there. I'm not wearing it at the moment, but I got mine.
Jan and Linda, it fits real good. So, hey, you did good.
And of course, John there with his Oak Island hat. Yeah, looking good. Yeah. And then, of course, we always like to have somebody with the show now. It looks like it's going to be a regular, either Colin or Dale or Tom Burns. When we get Tom Burns next week, Tom's going to have to join us next week.
Absolutely. He should.
On the screen here. So that way we have somebody that's local from the area up there in Nova Scotia, right? I mean, you got to have a local presence. I mean,
yeah, we're like the local spies.
You have to.
Hey,
all of us
inside information. We love it.
Yeah, all of us Americans down here talking about your area.
Well, Jeff, it's someone in the know. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. In the know. So Colin's in the know.
Colin is in the know. Oh, who's that there, Colin?
This is my boat buddy. He's my king navigator for the boat. So.
All right. What's his name?
That's Oscar the Sea Dog.
Oh, all right.
Oscar the Sea Dog. All right.
That's awesome. All right. So, hey, we're going to jump into it here. There's Dale. Hey, Dale's out there.
Hey, Dale.
April. I don't think I've seen April out there before. Hi, April. How you doing? Welcome. Karen Howard. Yep. There's a good name I've seen before. And Jeff at Anchor Tours. Hey, Jeff. How you doing? Court Lindahl's out there with us tonight. Hey, Court. Jan. All right.
Wanda, interesting. Wanda Urban.
Oh, hey, Wanda. Yep. So pretty interesting show last night. It's kind of interesting. I'll get my pictures going here too. That they jumped off pretty quickly and they jumped in right into the Money Pit area. And, they're working on that section right there. They call it the C1 cluster. They're working on that area, all the places where they found the old dated wood, and they found the samples of silver and gold in the water there. They found, the metal, of course, with gold on it. So they're narrowing down exactly, as they talked about last week, exactly where they want to sink several cans. They were talking about having 4 targets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they got to that many, but we don't know for sure. But we don't think they got to that many over the season, but last summer. But Colin got some good pictures for us on that, of course. Let's see here. All right. So, as always, I'm going to go ahead and bring up some pictures here. Oh, I didn't get to share it ahead of time. Let's see. There we go. All right. And there we have the first one, of course, the sky shot of Oak Island. And then jumping right into the money pit. You know, one thing I wanted to point out, too, here's those Caissons, those cofferdam, the cofferdam piles. They call them piles. I think that's what they call these things. Over here that they brought these in actually at the end of season 8 on the back of a flatbed semi.
Mm-hmm.
And they offloaded them in the money pit, and they've been sitting there ever since. Jack and I were hoping that they would be putting those in the swamp area to cordon off that area where they found the wood, so that they could dig up that ship-shape anomaly.
Yeah.
But they didn't quite get to that last season. But at least they got the I'm at a complete loss of what those things are called. The piles, I guess, sheet piles.
Cofferdam.
It's cofferdam. It makes a cofferdam when they're done, but I forget what I'm at a complete loss. I know what these things are
Didn't
called.
Karen say that she talked to Rick and they had a permit issue with that one at the end of last year?
They did. Yeah, you're right. Yep. That's a very good point. All right. So as they got going in the money pit area there, they were looking over at D1.5, which is right there where his finger is pointing. This little X that's written right here. D1.5, which is just kind of right in between. They've sunk holes in D1 and also in D2, and now they're shooting for right in the middle there. And you would think that, I get the feeling, when I see this kind of thing, I'm thinking, well, why do they need to go in such small increments? But they do when they're following something. They're following a piece of wood. And you see where this is. This circle right here is the outline of what they know to be the Dunfield Big Dig area.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're over here on this edge of it like that, they are going to be working in an area where they're going to be deeper than what he got because of that cone shape of what his dig was. They're going to be working in an area that is, deeper than what he got because of that cone. So they're outside that cone, and they're going to, because my concern was that they'd be hitting wood that he pushed back in that hole. Right. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Well, that's why they keep on dating the wood to see kind of what's what. I mean, the cool thing is they've been finding undisturbed wood, like I say, outside of that Dunfield kind of the open pit mining he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other reason is that they're going at such a slow rate or slow measurements across. I think they're trying to find the tunnel itself. They're trying to find the one shaft and then the other shaft. Okay, we've got this. This is the area of the tunnel right here in the middle.
Yeah. Well, you think they got, it's a pretty big area. And how big are those sonic tubes, like the sonic drilling?
6 inch. I think they're 6, aren't they?
Yeah.
6 inch.
Yes.
So you can imagine they said before they did 300 or 400 of them.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. So, I mean, you're doing one and then the next, and to try to crawl along. So, I mean, it's exciting where they're able to do those water samplings. And even the guys were saying about taking even some ground samples up to do isotope. Testing on it.
Yes.
They didn't really, they talked about it, but then they never really showed that else on the show on the actual soil sampling from some of the deeper holes, but they've clearly narrowed it down. I mean, they wouldn't have put this giant 10-foot caisson without narrowing down the field, right?
Let's see here. Okay. So let's see. C1. Yeah, C1 is in here. We were just looking at how close this is over to C1, of course. Let's see. And why they C1 wasn't named, according to the grid, of course. I think C1 is actually being blocked by his finger. It's like right over.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's being blocked by his finger.
Yeah. Yeah, so C1 is about CD4. So it'd be CD4. It'd be right about in here.
Right there.
Yep, right about in here is where C1 is, and this cluster they're doing is all around that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all around it. Yeah, I think that's C1 marked right there, but that's where it's at, right in that general area. And I think this red circle right here is the actual center of the bottom of Dunfield's dig, about 140 feet is this red forest. So you see, from here being 100-foot circle on the outside down to this point here on the inside, very inside at the bottom of that 140 foot, all of this, of course, would be a gradual, slope going down. And so they're definitely digging or drilling, I should say, outside of what he had dug up. If they get inside this area in here, they might be hitting some of the wood that he pushed back in the hole. But I think in this case, they're and like Jack was just saying, they're following a tunnel, or they were following a tunnel at one point when they were hitting everything about 88 feet. They were hitting wood about 88 feet going along. They were following a tunnel, which I think is really cool because that's where Marty was talking about. And I got a picture of it here in just a bit. The artist picture of where the money pit shaft going down. And then you have a offshoot of that money pit shaft going off and up to where the actual chamber would be, where they're stashing things to keep it up out of the water level, above the water level, right? So that makes total sense, in my opinion, anyway. So that's where they're drilling this particular hole, and here it is right here. So there's C1 right there, and then, of course, they're way over here on D1.5, and they're just nailed right in between. And again, they're following something. That's why they would bother with hitting a hole. They're right in between. I think these are 5. Did we decide these were 5 foot apart, these lines between 1 and 2?
Yes.
So they're like, 2.5 feet from either one. And when they shot that hole down in there. And this was that area where they found many different artifacts. And again, they hit some wood down there. And then this is the bits and pieces of the wood. And he had indicated that they had skimmed along the edge of something. They just caught the edge of something as they were going down. Let's see. I'm just reading this real quick. Yeah, they grazed it. He said they grazed it, a structure or something that they grazed on the way down. D1.5 was one of 20 boreholes that the team had laid out in this area. 20 of them just in this area.
Wow.
Yep. And all these different artifacts or things that they found. Here's some of the different pieces of wood they found. Some of this wood dating from 1488 to 1650.
Right.
Jeff, that's a very interesting time period, and we've talked about that on the show before. That's that whole age of exploration time period, post Templar, as we know Templar. Refugees redefined, rebranded Templars, and into the age of exploration and Francis Bacon. So it's the Peter Amundsen's period, as well as that post Templar period. Or whatever refugees would have been in the area. So it's just that small block. And if we keep coming up with that small block of time, it's significant because everything coming out of that money pit area is in that small block of time.
Or as Marty says, anything pre 1695, it just raises his ears up. What is this?
Right.
What's interesting is you only have certain organizations running around during that time period that have, first of all, the money to ship or have a fleet or boats around. You have some trading going on with the First Nation and the Native Americans, but you don't have a lot of activity. And then again, it's just significant because there is some interaction going on between Europe and First Nation territory and the East Coast of the United States. Which is very interesting.
What amazes me also of this is that we've found all this, but there's no records of it. Real records. I mean, they were talking last year. They went to England to try to find records. You think, if you're going to spend money like this, there would be something there, in writing, right? And they really have never found anything.
Nothing. What were you going to say, Colin?
No, I amaze, I'm sure, like a lot of people that, like say, John, that particular time period, I mean, just the technology to dig a hole, just a hole, 100 plus feet in the ground in an island in itself is an engineering feat. And then you think, all these things are all timber framed, well done between wooden dowels and cribbing spikes, and just the operation to cut and generate that much lumber just to support the structure itself that deep. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's
So,
unbelievable.
It's not like you were going and digging a hole to put, I don't know, a bag of coins in. I mean, this was extremely significant.
Well, when I look at the handful of people on Oak Island, I'm trying to imagine, they're trying to solve it. And, maybe 60, 80 people at most with production and all. And the manpower, the hundreds of hours of manpower it would take to build such a structure. It just amazes me how, you're not talking about a small organization. You're certainly not talking about pirates. Unless it was a pirate syndicate of some type that, is it's unknown. It's just a massive undertaking. These tunnels don't get so far down without some major construction and some major science behind it.
Yeah. And what Tom kind of makes to supply and the logistics aspect would be staggering.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got to think like us. What do we do? Oh, I'm going to run to the store. Oh,
yeah.
I'm going to Home Depot.
Right.
We need some food. We need supplies. We need fresh water. We need to do all these things.
So, Colin, ask yourself, who's going to stay course that? Who's going to pay for all that?
That's just it. I mean, the cost alone, even of that day in manpower and the constant supplies, because
correct.
I don't think you would dig a hole 180 feet in the ground in a year or summer, because as we see even the Oak Island show, you can't do it in the middle of winter. The springs are too wet and crazy.
Yep.
There's a very finite window that you can even do this on the ocean in Atlantic Canada. Like it's just, it's really mind blowing the operation that went on there.
Right. And that's something that John and I have talked about many times, what group of people would be capable of doing such a thing and have the manpower for doing such a thing, and the technology to be able to pull it off and not, that far underground and set up the flood tunnels and all those kind of things. That's what's staggering to me.
French were in the area, English were in the area, the Spanish were in the area, maybe.
Not to get off topic or drag too crazy, but remember a few years ago when they're talking about when they pulled up the bones,
yes,
and had them, test it and date it and where they're from and all this stuff. There was a lot of talk on slavery and where they, who was down and digging, like it's.
Because
anyway,
one was
incredible
Europe,
story no matter what
Arab,
they
if I remember.
Pardon me?
One was Europe and one was
Middle Eastern
or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
yeah, exactly.
It goes back to the Templars, but anyway.
Now you're talking.
Now, are you talking pre-1307 or post-1307?
Well,
and that's the argument. If it's pre-1307, then the 1347. Well, the 1347 map was post, but is it pre or post? Were there activities before the Templars were dissolved or after? And that's the real question. Or was it refugees? Was it what was left of the Templars after that desolation? And that's the question.
Yeah.
And then you've got to throw a date like 1220 in there just to mess everything up.
Yeah, exactly. The wood that chunk of wood that was found in the original when Spooner dug out, when they first found that platform on the north side of Nolan's Peninsula in the swamp, and he found that piece of wood that had been flattened in there, and they dated it to 1220, and it's like, now wait a second.
Well, that's
pre-Templar. I mean, it's
pre-desolation. That's right.
Yes.
It's right in the height of the Templar,
could be
activity.
Vikings.
The Vikings.
It could be Viking. Or Templars via the Viking routes or the Norse routes. You have all sorts of possibilities there.
I would imagine that the Vikings told them about the routes, maybe possibly the Templars about the routes.
They could have, yeah.
Well, the Norse definitely had that, had chronicled. I mean, I did some research on it this past summer. Had chronicled activity in that area. Yes. So we know. I think the man was named Ari the Wise, who actually chronicled and wrote about that area.
Mhm.
So
That's
we know the information was available to the Templars at that time.
Yeah, it seems like the 1500, the road seems to be like a 1500 date,
Mhm.
which everybody pretty much has agreed on so far.
Yep.
And to me, that's English almost.
And it
Well,
does
then-
kind of fall in when we get to toward the end here. We talk about that route that they found under there. That falls right in that range for
Yeah.
sure. So, um,
Hmm.
yeah, I know.
What other clues do we have, Jeff? Do we have other clues from last night?
Yeah.
Here
All
we
right.
go.
Well, here's
Well,
and this
something.
they showed this picture that they had constructed, of course, of one of the drills going down through there and hitting all this debris. And this is kind of what I was talking about with the Dunfield pushing all of his spoils back into
Back
the
in.
hole. And there's all kinds of wood in there. Now, some of it, when they're doing the drilling, they are going to hit some of these things. They are going to. It depends on how far down they are, and are they within that cone shape of Dunfield's dig. But when they're following a line along a certain area and it's all hitting about 88 feet and they know that they're outside of that, then pretty good bet that it's not from Dunfield pushing the stuff back. But again, talking about the Dunfield stuff, as they were looking at last week's show, when they were digging over there in his spoils and they were finding those beams over there. Now, those beams, hopefully they dated some of that. I'm assuming that they would have. If those date pre 1795 or go back into the 1500s or earlier, again, that gives you a nice time frame of the, like you said, the when everybody was starting to discover, when they were
The age of exploration.
Right.
age of exploration.
That whole Verrazano, Colberts, all sorts of explorers out there, and probably some unknown explorers. I'm sure there was some, unknown charts that were kept off the books.
Yep.
Makes sense to me.
Right. And that's something, like if it were, and that's something like Jack was alluding to there about having no written record anywhere. If it were Templar, and if the Templars were on the run back then, and I'm putting a big if out there, if it was post 1307 and they were on the run, there's not going to be any written record because they don't want anybody to know where they are.
Heck no, especially the Vatican.
Especially
the Vatican. There was no love lost between the Vatican and the Templars. There just wasn't. And
one of my goals in life, if I could read Latin, was to get into that Vatican archive between like 1300 and 1315, just to see what they had and what they thought the Templars had. Would that not be an interesting read?
Jack,
you and about a million other people.
We're gonna have to get Jack into the Vatican archives.
Yeah,
the secret archives.
It's just one of those things I thought of. What an interesting read it would be, though, John.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But I don't think anyone that would be carrying Spanish loot from South America or the Caribbean would have been putting out published papers to send to the king to say, hey guys, listen, we hit all our treasure over here.
Yeah.
And piracy and everything else. So
especially when they're supposed to be taking that gold and everything they're getting from South America, they're supposed to be taking it back across over to Spain and to
correct.
And turning it all in. Right. Now, if they had they had a boat kind of diverted or a ship diverted up to Nova Scotia to make a deposit, and we don't know what happened to that boat. It sunk.
There was a big storm, and we lost one of the ships. Sorry, King. I don't know where it went.
It happens. These things happen, King.
Lost in a hurricane. And
McQuiston always had a theory on that English did that before they went back over in 1634 at Mahone Bay.
Yep. Well, if you look at the East Coast, it's fraught with it's a graveyard of ships, especially around the Outer Banks, all the way up in Virginia, and keep going. And the Nova Scotia area, it's another graveyard of ships. Lord knows how many ships went down. So there was a lot of truth to that. So it was documented. So it would be an easy cover story to say, we lost 2 ships, and they're doing something a little more secretive on Oak Island. That's always a possibility.
Always. Yep. Definitely.
And a lot of the, I understand say a lot, but I mean, where did most of the pirates come from? They were naval commanders. They were people sent from from Spain, from Portugal, and decided they found something and decided to go out on their own and became pirates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sluggo 773 says the Vatican had their paws on pretty much anything during that time period to this day. Yeah. That's
Well, it was a bit of a power grab, if you ask me. You had certain countries that were under papal rule. You had certain countries that weren't. You had leaders that were excommunicated during the time. So it really was a race for resources in the New World. At this point, Jeff, Europe was wiped out. There was no resources. Every mineral, every precious ores, precious metals, it was wiped out. Trees wiped out. I mean, there was not many resources. The New World was full of resources, and it was a race.
Yep.
It was a race.
Now, Alan asked a good question here. He said, "Are there any other areas in Canada where there are old Portuguese artifacts?"
That's a Colin question.
Yeah, I do.
I'm not ultra super familiar as far as the Portuguese route. There's a lot of Portuguese influence and so forth, and same as they're saying the pathway and had been here in Atlantic Canada, but I'm not super familiar with.
Well, let me throw this out real quick, Jeff. That's a great question. Was not the Overton stone Portuguese, or
That's
supposedly
what
Portuguese?
Terry DeVoe says. Yes, he's very adamant about the fact that he believes it is Portuguese.
Yeah,
It looks Portuguese.
Yeah, because of the way the cross is done in there. To him, it's Portuguese.
It's commiserate of the Portuguese. I'm not saying it is, but it's very commiserate. I've actually seen it up close and personal, and you can run your hands into the divots. It's actually carved out, and it looks to me like it's commiserate of Portuguese iconology.
Yep,
in my opinion.
Yep,
I'm a big believer. Like Henry Sinclair and these guys were 100% Nova Scotia. They were definitely here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, so getting back over here to this part, they were going through and looking at some of the spoils over there. They brought Rick and Marty over because they wanted to get a look at what they had found. They wanted them to get a look at it. They found one piece of wood that looked like a piece of, it was rounded. In my thinking, it was like sometimes you get a knot or where a branch came out of a log and that knot will fall out and you got a nice rounded piece. But I remember Steve was looking at it and he said it looked like it had been chopped with an axe. So that was interesting. And then, of course, down around that was a piece of what looked like he called it a dowel, like a piece of dowel, which would have been like it could have been a pin that had been driven into a couple of beams to hold them together. So it could have been a pin that they had made or part of it. Marty feels, and this is what I was talking about later, Marty feels that it could be a leading off to another chamber, an offset chamber where it goes off onto a different area. Which is what they really didn't talk about that before, but I think that's a very good possibility. And as we talked about over the last week and the week before, we kind of discussed this a little bit and found that we do kind of believe that, if you have that offset chamber, and I think I made right there. Yeah, there's the picture. It makes total sense to get that up and way off to the side and also keep it up above the water level.
Isn't that ingenious for them to be able to think that through though? Because you can take your treasure down on a platform right to there and have people at each level just hoist it up to the upper level and be above water. I mean, it would just be like handing one to another up to that chamber.
Yep.
Well, there's clearly the box drains and passages made for seawater into the area was 100% man-made. That's been proven. They dug that up. They've shown that.
Yep.
I'm a big supporter of this theory of having the offset chamber above sea level. Certainly the hole is dug below sea level, and then you have managed to actually, if you don't open it up or access it properly, that you trip it and it will fill it up past the point of access.
But that makes sense because it protects whatever is in that offset chamber.
Right.
It's a
So
little.
the
It's
good news is it's not full of seawater. So when they pull out the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail,
don't do that. Don't do that.
Or Shakespeare's papers.
I couldn't help it, John. I'm sorry.
my biggest fear is they drill right through it, and then we came up with gold,
with the grabber.
and suddenly the lid of the Ark of the Covenant comes up. And you're like, oh,
Yeah, you got half of one of the cherubim come up. You're like,
yeah,
yeah.
what a big hole in it.
that's when that big swirling vortex starts to form over the Oak Island.
Indiana Jones all over here.
Exactly. Jeff,
All of a sudden-
it doesn't mean there's not other offset. We've talked about, is it just one?
Right.
Because this is very similar to, I've said this before, mining techniques during that time. The 10-foot reminds me of mining techniques. The way they reinforced it are mining techniques. These are known mining techniques. I went back and looked at some of the old diagrams I found on the internet. Every 10 feet or so would be commensurate with the mining techniques.
Right.
And guess what? It doesn't mean there's not other goodies down there. I think it's more than just one goodie. It might be a huge bank,
Well,
and
there's always been the theory also that there's just not one big treasure on Oak Island. There are a bunch of smaller treasures also.
Could be.
Sure.
From different people.
Why not? It certainly makes sense, and it would explain all the tunnel activity underneath the island, because it's just not one master tunnel. There are tunnels all over the place because they keep.
I know Jeff had a diagram one time of all the tunnels that were going through Oak Island, and oh my goodness! I mean, it was.
Yeah. There's a picture. Well, it was part of the. Well, there's a couple of them. One of them would have been from the Behringer survey.
Yes.
Yeah. So Lisa Courage has a good point here. Newfoundland has a lot of historical Portuguese influence. From the 1600s.
Mm.
I did not know that. That's
a lot of the European older fishing fleets and stuff would have been coming out off the Grand Banks and so forth in the later years.
Let's see. Robot, I'll bring that question up here when we move along a little bit. That's a good question for John there, and John can it's on the YouTube side there, but I'll bring that up in a little bit. But that is a good question for later. Let's see. Let's see, Newfoundland. Yeah, so that's but interesting. Interesting there. I got this one picture here that I just wanted to show. This one. This is the last of the money pit pictures, and this one here I like it because look how close they are to this. There's actually actually a shaft that goes down right here in this rock in this memorial right here. There's actually a wooden shaft that goes down. It looks like it's covered up or you can't really see it, but if I remember, you've been there, John. Do you remember there's a shaft over here in this corner?
Yeah. I actually have pictures of that shaft, and it was one of the searcher shafts.
Yeah,
exactly. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Well, someone was searching for something, and they dug it up, and they couldn't believe what they dug up. So, maybe I'll post some pictures on the Facebook page if you guys want to see an up close and personal shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got several pictures of it.
Yep. But I thought that was neat that they're right over on the edge, right there.
Yeah, on the edge.
Yeah.
That might be one of the searcher shafts that they were going to go down and go parallel into the money pit area. Wasn't when there was several of those where they were trying to avoid the flood tunnels, and that may have been one of those searcher shafts that was trying to avoid the flood tunnels.
Yep. All right, so that's why I brought that picture up because I thought that one was pretty cool. I like how they're getting so close over there. All right, so let's see here. All right, so now we jump over to lot number 4. This is where the whole gang, pretty much everybody, got Steve and Laird and Gary and Jack and Doug, and everybody heads on over here to lot 4. And this has to go off from where they were talking about the survey that they had done. Let me see, I forgot, I'm at a complete loss of the name of that team that was out there. They went out and they had that like a backpack scanning system, and they went around looking, but they had picked up a few targets that they wanted to now go over and metal detect and see what they could find. So they headed off over that way, over to lot 4. And here's that where the team had found that one anomaly right here that they think they were calling it the hatch, but there's a lot of different. There was the hatch, and there was also
the hole below the hatch.
Yeah. There was also another.
discuss it. The guys that had done the survey and the map with the different colorations.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Yes.
What were like on the pinks and reds? Was it water or was it? That's what I thought. It was like almost like a void or / water pickup on pinks and reds. I don't know.
Or was it disturbed soil?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was asking that question last week about that, whether or not the pink and the blue, there was blues and pinks and then a darker red, and was it just different different soil consistency of the soil.
Yeah, I'm wondering anyone that's watching put some comments in that has better. They talked about a little bit of detail, but my memory is.
Jeff, what was the technology called? I can quickly look it up. If there's someone in the chat knows the technology and can give us, I'm sure there's a technology and there's a breakdown somewhere on what those colors mean.
CSR geosurveys. That's what Jan's got that up there. The pinks were anomalies.
Okay.
Yeah, some sort of an anomaly down there.
And does that mean soil, disturbing of soil, or
density,
that's what I'm asking. But and there's probably a way of finding out if I can get specifics.
Because the swamp area was just seemed to be a very everyone that we knew there's water is very different red density to it. This is just a really interesting. Then it's a pink, and then it's got these blue spots, and then it's normal all around it. It's really.
Well, it's definitely something's happened there. Something's disturbed it. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Yeah, we don't know what. I mean, is it an old well or what could it be? But we're not really sure. But it was definitely something going on there. So they went out. Again, cat's trying to jump up here on my desk. I don't want the cat up here at the moment. Yeah, not during the show. All right, so she's gonna be up here before long. All right, so they found this piece of metal. This was Gary. They went over and they did a little bit of metal detecting, and Gary come up with this piece here. Yeah, it's a blurry picture. I thought I had a better shot of it. Let's see. No, guess not. But anyway, it was curved up on one end, and he was thinking that it was mostly copper, a copper alloy of some sort. They wanted to get it cleaned up and get a look at it. And I was hoping. They kind of alluded to it last week. They were talking about the hatch, of course, and then they were gonna, and they kind of, I'm gonna say, led us to believe that they were digging up the hatch last week, and it turns out they were actually digging in the Dunfield spoils instead and found that beam. But they didn't get over there and dig the hatch this week either. But they did do some metal detecting over in the areas, which was good, I guess. So there's Jack and Gary out there in the rain, and then they came across this old buckle. It's interesting nonetheless, but I mean, you can't really I don't think you can't really get a date on something like this. I don't think, can you? I mean, not that easily anyway.
Would the one guy that they go to for leather maybe be able to?
Yeah, that's the guy at the book bindery.
Right.
I've forgotten his name, but he could take a look at it, kind of get an idea of the leather itself. But I don't know that they would. I mean, this could honestly be from a piece of harness. It could be from somebody's satchel. It could be from something heavy, like I said, an oxen harness of some sort. You'd think it'd be a little heavier duty if it was that. But I mean. You can. Oh, Linda says you can date leather. I don't know if they're going to bother with it or not. We'll see. But it was an interesting find. But this could have been from somebody farming on the island as well.
So I was going to say there was a lot of other activity on the island.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks more recent. I mean, leather does not. I mean, it's certainly not 700 years old. It's a much more modern piece of leather. I mean, leather it will disintegrate over time.
It's pretty sad when we find something that's 200 years old and you're like, yeah, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, for sure.
Throw it back on the ground.
Yeah, just get it. We don't need that. That's pretty sad. There's another picture of it there. And this to me, actually, it looked to me to be kind of a homemade. You see the cut along here, and then the way the point was cut at the end, and then the holes. They're not perfect off, it just looks homemade. Something that like Samuel Ball would have made, and
Jenny and Inky made a very good comment. Since it was a living animal at one time, she goes, you can carbon 14 date that, and you could. because it was living at one point. So you could get a carbon-14 on that. It looks a little more modern to me, but if you really wanted to, you could carbonate that.
Yeah, Linda brought up a good point, didn't they?
Yeah.
Date the leather to 1492. Yes, that's exactly right. They did.
That's true. They did.
Yep. Yeah, Columbus's heel. That was his heel of his shoe. Christopher Columbus. That's what Jeff Irving was saying, right?
Oh, man.
Jeez.
You guys
He
are
was
killing
saying
me.
that.
I think Jeff actually said he wasn't saying Columbus dug the hole, but was definitely involved in it. But anyway, that just looked like something homemade to me, that strap there. Anyway, this was kind of an interesting find, and they found that another button down there. Let's see. This was the belt buckle and then this button here. And we never did get a real good look at it. They were trying to clean it off a little bit so we could get a picture of it, but it didn't really look that, get it all cleaned off. But they were able to take it over, as we'll get to here in just a little bit. They did take it over to the archaeology trailer and got a look at it on the machine there on the XRF scan, which was good. So, again, they found another button. Then they headed over to the swamp. And this is where Alex was over there. And this is the first time that we see one of the new archaeologists over there. You got Laird and you got Liz and Miriam, of course, and Helen. We had not seen Helen before, or met her, or seen her on the show before. Of course, there's Miriam and Liz, and you got Helen Sheldon. That's the first, like I said, that's the first time we've seen her. And I had speculated initially when we knew that we had seen some teaser pictures of another archaeologist working with Liz and with Miriam, that there was another person there. And we were wondering, I had speculated that that person might have something to do with the Mi'kmaq, the people that somebody was coming over to help them with that, that portion of it. I don't believe she was. I think she was just another archaeologist that was brought on to the scene to help out. And people had mentioned, well, we saw her once and that was it. Well, we don't know how long she was really there. I think she was there for a while. And I noted this because of the fact that when Alex was over there talking to them, she kind of took charge on explaining things right away. And I thought that was interesting, because somebody that's relatively new on the island probably wouldn't take the lead on explaining something the way she did. So I would have to, and again, it's just a guess. I don't know for sure how long she was there. But I would take a guess that she had been there a while, at least long enough to feel comfortable in jumping right out and explaining things. Yeah, we saw, that's what Jan says. We saw her on the background shots. Yeah, maybe the same day. We'll see. And again, they were talking about the areas. Now, these are the areas that were cordoned off by the finding of some of the Mi'kmaq artifacts. You got the southeast corner of the swamp, which is exactly where they were just working. You also have this section up here that is encompassing the eye of the swamp. I think it's the eye is just on the edge
Right there. Yep.
Yeah, right over here on the edge. And then you've got the platform, part of actually the stone platform, I think, is right there. But I don't know what this little marking right here is. I'm not exactly sure what that is. But the green area was good by the money pit, but anything outside of that in this red area was off limits, encompassing all of the Isaac's Point. But and then of course right over here on the edge of the money pit area, we're going over here. So that's what they were looking. This is where they were actually down here, and they were looking at there was a picture of a beam that I thought was pretty cool. And they were looking right here. Here's where they think that the stone road actually continued right on out into the ocean right here. And then, as Terry DeVoe had shown us on that one scene, it looked like the stone road had gone quite a ways, or maybe some sort of a wharf or a pier or something had gone quite a ways out into the ocean. And he was looking at those line of rocks that were out there, boulders and stuff.
And at this point, it's not ocean; it's 7 foot. If we're talking 700 years, it's 7 foot lower.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so it really is at this point
Thank
a
you.
real stone road to a pier or a wharf or something out there.
Because
Right.
that roadway that they have in the seawall is all man-made, right?
Yes.
Around the island.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's covering up where this goes across right here.
Yeah.
Definitely covering that up. And good, a great point, John, because that's exactly right. The sea level would have been lower, so this would have been all road at one point going out this way into the ocean.
So here's a question. At this point, what does the swamp look like? If there's 7 foot lower, and the road's going out, is the swamp really the swamp at this point?
I would have to think it's drier ground.
I would imagine it's drier ground. It wouldn't have been covered with water like it is now. Unless those are natural springs. I take that back. Those are natural springs.
That's
right. That's right. They are natural springs.
We found that out late last year. We found that out late last year.
Yes. But it's curious because there's no road, so the swamp is open to the ocean as well. And that's where I'm going with it. So I guess some of the ocean water was getting in there. We know there were natural springs in the area. We know the tadpole up at the very top is a separate natural spring. So it's a combination of ocean water and natural spring at this point.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And it probably would have been, even though it would have been not constantly covered in water, it probably would have been pretty mucky, I think, a lot of the time, probably.
Hence why you need the stone road.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
That logically makes sense now. The stone road makes sense because it would have been muck and muddy, and the tides would be coming in and out, and you had to have a way to unload the ships or cargo onto and off the island. Now that makes sense. That's why it's stone.
And it would have been a pretty decent place for flat, for a flat area to where you're not going up a hill immediately to get onto the island. This was a beam they found. I did have I was trying to grab another picture of it, but it's down there. And I mean, I'm curious to see what this beam, if we ever do get to see another look at it, this beam that was down there amongst the rocks. Remember how they were finding all these rocks? It was indication of another portion of the stone road heading off toward the money pit area. And then you got this beam down there. I was very curious about this beam, and we don't know that they pulled it up or took any samples of it. They just kind of scraped off the top of it there. But a pretty good sized beam nonetheless right here, mixed right in there with those stones.
I think that would have been part of a cribbing structure, because as the stone would have went out, they would have had that built up wood and filled in with rocks for whatever crib going into the water and
makes sense.
Boats, because all the supplies, like we said earlier, food, water, digging equipment, everything would have had come by boat of some type. Because yes, today there's a causeway and you can drive your car out, but back in the day, all that operation would have had to have a drop point for everything. So I think that's where the stone pathway kind of comes into effect.
Makes sense.
Yep, very good point. All right, then we jump over to the war room. Oh, and he did mention, Laird, when he was there, he did mention about finding an old route that was underneath the stone road coming across there that they had actually cut up, and they tested and sent it off to be C-14 tested. And we'll get to that toward the end here, but they did send off that. That was the last thing that he talked about while he was there. We jump over to the war room. And this is where they get the team together. Rick is over there with the team, everybody, and they're having a little discussion with Marty and Rick and everybody, talking about the future of, let's see, I'm actually going to read what it says here. Marty explains to them that he has come to a decision to back down on the archaeological methods for the time being, that Laird would remain on the island and advise the team, what their plan going forward was. So we'll jump into this a little bit further, more as we go along. Then they jump over to the archaeology trailer, and this is where Gary and Jack go in and meet Kelly Barassa, and they bring him that button that they found. There's Kelly, and there's the button that they had found. And he's going to do the XRF testing on this particular button. And lo and behold, amongst the other things that they find, AU, which is gold. And that's pretty interesting that they keep, even though this wasn't in the money pit, it was found over on lot 4. And again, you think lot 4. Now we know that, that was not one of the, Was that one of the lots that Samuel Ball? I don't think that was one of the ones that Samuel Ball owned. I know he did own a couple on the other side of the road that goes down through the island, but I don't think that was one that he had owned. But that was pretty interesting that it did have gold on it. Here was another button that they found.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are this season. We're finding several things that have gold on them. But the interesting thing was the stuff in the swamp. I mean,
so it was gold plate. Is that what we're saying, right? And that's usually something that's expensive. If you have gold plated buttons, you're usually an officer or there's some kind of aristocracy coming on the island. You have to be able to afford to have your stuff gold plated.
Yes,
it's the process is known. It's much similar to electroplate, but it's expensive. It's not cheap.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that makes a very good point. That you're definitely going to be of higher ranking to have something like that. Otherwise, it's going to be brass or whatever.
Yeah,
you're not going to have gold.
Well, that was remember Samuel Ball, and they found the buttons or the medallion from high-ranking British naval officers and so forth were on his property. So
yeah, the one that had like the anchors and stuff on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was an interesting find. And I don't think they had the XRF out there at that time. I wonder if that, going back now, I wonder if that had any hints of gold on it. I don't think they were testing that. They didn't get the XRF until this season.
That XRF is pro gold, that's for sure. Holy everything is gold on it now.
It's like the Midas touch.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of neat. Those things are awesome, though. Yeah, I mentioned that before that the company I work for, we actually rent those things. We've got a couple of them that we rent out. They're not set up in a nice little station like that where you lift the lid. But if you notice underneath that, it's an XRF gun that's underneath it. It's shaped like a radar, like a policeman would use a radar detector. It's shaped like that, and it's underneath, and it scans inside that little box. It's pretty cool.
I wonder if it's so nice to get that information right now, real time for them too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'd be interested, John. I mean, you're like the research, like the king of research. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Has anyone done any, I guess, background on this XRF? Like this AU, I mean, it's given a 0.159. Like, what does that mean? Like, as far as, is that like a minuscule pinhead of a needle amount of gold, or is that like
it's a parts per? And I can certainly research that real quick while we're live on air. But it's parts per million, I would assume.
Yeah, I think it is ppm. Yep.
Yeah, ppm. Does that make sense? And so it shows traces, which would be commensurate of electroplate or some kind of very small amount of gold, enough to make it shiny, and but not to make it high quality. But I think it's that's parts per million. It would be my quick analysis of that.
Yep. Linda and Tom Burns letting me know that Samuel Ball owned 6, 7, 8, 24, 25, 26, 30, 31, and 32. So he did not own lot 4. I was just curious about that.
Oh, wow.
Which I believe they were going to check also.
But
So
I mean, he would have been all over the island, though. I mean,
Yeah,
he
so-
had that much of it, and there's strips of land. So I mean,
Yeah. So you own 9 total. That's a lot of cabbage.
Yeah, that's a lot of cabbage.
Remember, it's 1,500 cabbages per acre.
Right.
And how big is a lot? I mean, is it a half acre, an acre?
No,
Do we know? Does anyone know out there?
there were a couple acre lots.
5 acre lots?
I think there were 4 or 5 acre lots.
So you're talking 45 acres sitting there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was it that big? It's a pretty big island. I can't.
Yeah.
It's a big island.
142
4 acres. 4 acre lots.
4 acre lots.
How many feet? I'm a Canadian, not this.
How many feet per acre?
Now I gotta Google it. You guys are killing me.
No, I'm on it.
Yeah, Ruth also said that same thing. 4 acre lots. Yep.
Okay, 1 acre contains 43,560 square feet.
Wow.
Ooh.
He owned 36 acres all told.
Jeez. So it's
Now,
36.
part of what he owned, I think that one lot that he had was part of the right on the edge of the swamp too. So
Right.
part of that he wouldn't have been able to farm, I don't think.
But that makes sense because he needs a water supply
Yeah.
if he's farming, and that's a water supply. So yeah, you buy acreage right next to a water supply. That makes perfect sense to me. And a fresh water supply at that.
Yep.
All right. So next on the end here, we jump over to the, and I'm going to go to this part first here. We jump over to the war room. And this is where, whoop, let me get that offset real quick. There we go. And this is where the guys get together to talk about that C14 dating on that route. That's a big route. I saw these up there, these pieces of wood, and I'm thinking, okay, what do they got these chunks of wood here from? This is actually the root that they found.
Good
This would have
grief.
been a big tree
Mm-hmm.
that had a
Real
root
big
that
tree.
size.
Good grief.
Wow.
So they sent these off to get C14 dating done. There's a shot of one of them right there.
Wow.
So Laird explains that they had planned to bisect the road and so they could get the datable artifacts and datable samples for C14, the dendrochronology dating on. Craig tells the team that they had tested outside the outside and inner portions of the route. Both came back with the same time period, which was 1474 to 1638.
It doesn't get any better.
But that
Right.
falls right into your age of discovery.
Age of exploration. Yeah, it's right
Age
in
of
that
exploration, yep.
same area.
Everything is becoming 1400 to 1700.
Right. And it's like you had mentioned earlier, Jack, about the 1500s. Everything around the swamp was all hitting in that 1500 time frame. And that pretty much is. I mean, you got 25 years into the 1400s and about 25, 30 years into the 1600s. So primarily the 1500s.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool right there, I thought. And this Steve says that they lines up perfectly with the dates of the wood from D2 and CD 2.5, which dated 1488 to 1650, like almost to the exact time period. And again, that was from the money pit. So they found a root underneath the road dating at basically the same time period as wood that's coming out of deep in the money pit.
Yeah.
Jeff, do we know the type of tree that is?
I don't think they mentioned that.
Did
Let me
not
see.
mention.
Oh, the question is, I'm assuming it's indigenous to the area. That would be my first question. Is it or isn't it? That would be interesting if it wasn't. And then secondly, is it oak? I'm always curious to know if it's oak. Because
I'm almost going to say it doesn't. It looks more pine to me, more of a
more pine because of the open grain.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the
I can
edge
buy that.
here, along the bark
Yes,
side.
too.
That's not a heavy pine bark though, right here on the edge either. It's a thin bark.
You're right. It does look a little more pine. Good call.
So I'm not sure. I don't know. Did anybody remember them saying, what type of wood it was? I don't think they said on the.
Well, your open face woods will go quicker than your closed grain woods. So the fact that it survived that long is amazing. That's why I was curious to know what type of wood it was.
Yeah, Kate says they didn't mention the type of wood it was.
Okay, if that's pine disintegrates quickly, so I'm just amazed that survived
because of the softer wood, right? Yeah,
correct.
So it may not be. I may be completely wrong on that. I just it is kind of more of an open grain. So I'm thinking that it was more of a soft wood of some.
That makes sense.
Dr. Spooner the other season did that organic testing in the swamp underneath, basically the similar thing, and wasn't he lining up in like the late 1300s, early 1400s for a time period? And they were proving the fact that it was a man-made structure put in around that in the 1400s was his time period.
Yep. All that same area, same time period.
Exactly. So, I mean, and you think about that, it's like who, we know that they, and I don't know my dates now, like Colin and of course you, John, from your research that you do would probably have a better clue on this, but knowing that the French were there in power and the English were there in power at some point going back and forth, who would have been around there around the 1400s? Let's say the late 1400s, early 1500s.
Well, you have the Portuguese 1500 and 1501 there for sure in Finland. In that area, you certainly have Verrazano in that same area. You have Colbert in the same area. Going up and down. You have Cartier. We know Cartier. Up towards the mouth of the St. Lawrence and into the St. Lawrence Passage or St. Lawrence Seaway. There were explorers. Drake supposedly was in the area as well, Francis Drake. So we know there was many known explorers, and again, it doesn't rule out, secret missions or, unknown explorers or, envoys or scouts that, any of the aristocracy or ruling class of any of the major countries would have sent over. And don't preclude the Vatican either, sending missionaries over at that point.
Because just to put in perspective, I mean, Halifax, which would be the capital of Nova Scotia, was founded in 1749.
Okay. Yep.
So clearly there was a lot of operations going on.
No, absolutely.
It just goes to show you the age of, you're literally talking like 150 plus years before even the founding of Halifax.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really predating back to your point, John. I mean, it's the Portuguese and the Spanish, like there would have been a lot of people coming up and down the coast, but not really colonizing the land as per se. But still would have had to study, because this would have been when you do the what do you call it again? The Gulf Stream. When you're coming off Nova Scotia, we do shark fishing and so forth, and we go out, about 10 miles offshore to get you into the edge of the Gulf Stream. So back in the day, the ships as are following that along the coast going south before you go across the Atlantic, it's not that far off the coast to make that journey in to resupply, get water, do all those things. And these are regular landing places for a lot of people coming in here.
Right.
Absolutely. We know Colbert was in there in the late 1400s, Jeff, up and down that area. Right. So, there were explorers. He was an Italian explorer as well. So, I always look at the nationalities because it kind of tells me maybe the motivation of the explorer being in that area. In fact, he was Italian. You might be able to link him again to the Vatican.
Right. This picture here shows the what they found last season. Obviously, the stone path or road here, and then how it led up all the way across Nolan's Peninsula, heading towards the eye of the swamp or Nolan's property up that way. And then they also found this offshoot that looked like it was turning and heading off towards lot 15, 14 and 15 through here. What they were looking at here, down here in the bottom, was this line that seemed to be heading up toward the money pit. Now, we did see also that picture that they showed. They showed it again last night of there was an old picture from the 1930s, I think it was, where they showed that the stone like a pathway, very distinct, but still not, not all the, heading across the money pit area. I don't have a picture of it here handy, but they showed that running across. That was that old photograph that was taken by an airplane, and you could see some of the stones leading toward, they were heading right back down this way toward the southeast corner of the swamp. So pretty good indication that, yes, this road does extend all the way up toward the money pit area, which, again, why would they need to go over there? Whoever built it from the beginning, why would they need to go over there? So that all leads you to that same, I guess big question is, why would they be going over there? Why would you need to go to the money pit area from down there? That would have been a more of a harder trek to get up that way. So they had to have a good purpose for going that direction.
Well, certainly they're doing a lot of lumber and milling and so forth. They talked to using the pit saw and, just dragging the stuff up there.
Right.
A lot of ship repair during that time also, probably.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So obviously, it was the road was there. We saw it, and then they found an indication of it down here in the southeast corner, which means that definitely they've got it there. You see it up in the money pit.
Yeah.
Two lines line up together. So somewhere in the middle is the rest of that road, and they dug up some of it when they were going through Dunfield spoils. I'll bring that picture up again real quick here. When they were going through Dunfield spoils, right about in this area here, they came across the bits and pieces of that road there as well. Underneath that, they did hit that rock, and then Spooner jumped in the hole there, and he said, "Yep, this is definitely part of that. What appeared to be the same part of the, stacked, just like they were down there in the southeast corner of the swamp." So, yeah, pretty interesting. And so, here you got all those, everything dating back to the again to the 1474 to the 1638 time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just interesting nonetheless. So, but this was a show of big, great discoveries? No, but they did find some pretty interesting things there. But one of the key points, and I think we're gonna kind of make this a little bit of a we'll do our own little war room table talk here.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump to the final, what I saved for the last. It wasn't the last on the show, but I saved it for the end. Was what we found out later in last night's episode was that the basically the dismissing of the archaeologists that were on the island. You got Liz and Miriam and Helen. And everybody said, oh, well, like I said earlier, Helen was there on one show and gone. What we don't know, obviously, we don't know if they ended up back on the island. We don't know. This would be, and we don't know exactly what time frame this. As we know, they move around a lot on the island date wise. We see some pictures early on, and then mixed in with some pictures later on. But they did have a little farewell where the guys came out and said goodbye to them as they were packing up their gear on their last day and heading off the island. So that brought up the question. A lot of people, again, there was a lot of talk that came out when we found out that the Laird had found the artifacts from what he said was definitely Mi'kmaq, and this was what he found in the southeast corner of the swamp. And then and right off the bat, they were, it was Mi'kmaq. He had to go up and show them, and then the CCH got involved, and they shut down that area.
Mm-hmm.
And that not only that, but also I showed the picture of it just a few minutes ago. Not only that area, but the area up by the eye of the swamp, and then also areas around the money pit area. And then we see on the show last night that Rick and Marty were talking, with everybody, and they had decided that what they were going to do was they were going to cease operations as far as the archaeologists are concerned, not Laird's part, but having a team of archaeologists going through and working these particular areas of the swamp and the Stone Road. They made the discovery in the Stone Road already. They pretty much have nailed down the Stone Road also leads not only back behind toward the eye of the swamp, but also toward the money pit,
Mm-hmm.
as I was saying just earlier. So they've made the discoveries, and now they're going to continue on with what they came there to do, which was
Mm-hmm.
the continuation of the treasure hunt, and back off a lot on the archaeology side. What you guys' thoughts on all of that?
Well, I kind of, I know when I make posts on the Facebook group,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of give a timeline as things happening throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about it. There was a very short pause as far as quick activity, but the good news is, while we're talking, I'm kind of flipping back through the timestamps on some of the photos. I mean, it's going back into even early September. They had the backhoes and everything in the swamp, and they were archaeologists working in the swamp. So in late July, they seemed to stop, and then they were right back at it. So I just think there's a little bit of a consultation period going on. They've clearly found something.
Yep.
And I think they're just waiting to get some further direction. But the good news is it doesn't stop the show.
Right.
Exactly.
The show carries on. So I think they certainly, I'm very excited because they clearly found something of high value. Whether it's historic, archaeological, in that particular area.
Correct.
So they found something of significant, which I'm very super excited about. And clearly, the process continues. Not next year, it actually happens. So I'm really looking forward to see the next couple of episodes, because I think it's coming out. It's that close.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we know for sure, we know that Laird stayed on the island. So Laird is still there. He's still doing the same job that he was doing before.
Yep.
Somebody had mentioned about that. Too bad they have the archaeologists there to catalog things, but they don't have them there. They do. Laird is going to continue doing everything that he has done before. He was the basically the government's representative on the island as far as
Yeah.
those things go. He will continue or did continue that job. As you heard, he was staying. He's going to continue that throughout the entire season. And also, a good thing to point out too is that we're only seeing the Laguna side in this, right? So we saw what they did on the show last night. And again, as Colin just mentioned, this was months and months and months ago that this happened. And that work did not stop. It continued. And we know that, yes, those areas are still cordoned off, the southeast corner of the swamp up by the eye and portions of the, outside the money pit area are still cordoned off. But it didn't stop things from happening. And as Colin just sent this picture back again,
Yep.
we saw coming up on the episode, for the promo for next week's episode, we saw this excavator showing up on the island.
Yeah,
We sure did.
So the interesting thing is, that I think is dated September the 12th is when that happened, just to kind of give everyone a perspective on when. So if that's going to be coming rolling in, and we're clearly in probably August during the season right now on what's showing up on the TV. So I'm just trying to see when the Caisson rolls in there. I think that's
Interesting.
That was September timeframe also, wasn't it? I think
later in the month.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
August 29th, still none. September 12th, the crane went up on September.
Yep.
And then, so that was about the same time as this, actually.
Makes sense.
And then on the very first, October 2nd, was a weekend. So I think it happened a few days before the Caisson was actually, the very first Caisson was going into the ground on October the 2nd.
Wow.
So,
yep.
Fingers crossed.
So, they're going to back off on that. And you heard what Marty had said on the show is that they were going to back off from the, I think the way he stated it was something along the lines of, we're going to back off on what the archaeologists are doing because if they find something in another area, then that means that they're going to cordon off that area as well. And they didn't want to lose their whole island. I don't know that that's exactly what, that's kind of what he was thinking at the time, obviously, but it puts them back to where they were before. We saw the archaeologist, Laird has been on the island for several years now. And then we saw in season 8, we saw Aaron Taylor show up. And then we saw at the beginning of during season 8, we also saw that
Miriam and Liz show up.
Well, Miriam and Liz showing up, exactly. And that's when they decided to really take a good look at some of the things that they were finding. I think that will continue. But for now, they've decided to back off on that and continue with where they were prior to this. And that is continuing on with the search for the treasure and answers to the treasure and who, what, why, where, and when, and all of that. And I'm excited about the fact that they're getting out here to the swamp. I mean, what do you think, Jack? Jack is
a happy camper right now because I like that they're going in now when the ground is dry. Because if you remember, it was 3 or 4 years ago, they took a barge out there and they drilled down like 5 feet.
Yeah.
But it was all water and muck and not dried out or anything.
Right.
And last year they got in there a little bit, but it just got too muddy and they had too many springs and everything to get in there and get things done. I think they're going to look at that this year because that anomaly points right toward the money pit, if I remember correctly, right up toward there. And you want to talk about who, what, where, how, and when. If they find a ship and find out whose ship it is, it answers a lot of questions. Now, per Oak Island, for every question answered, 2 more pop up.
That's how it always is.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. Even if they get that answer or that question answered, sometimes they don't get that answer and they still come up with some more questions.
I mean, but I think I think they're going back to the money pit, to really focus on what the original intent was.
Yep.
I think the best thing we can say right now is that we have the right person in charge, Rick.
Yeah.
He's very calm. He's very deliberate. Doesn't get too high. Doesn't get too low. And he's a good guy because you get people getting a little bit more upset, and everything. And he's that person that says, "Hey, let's calm down. Let's think this out."
Right.
So I think we can be very thankful that Rick is being the one in charge and directing this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what Jan was saying. Jack wants his boat.
Oh, Jack wanted his boat for 2 or 3 years. And
Yeah,
Jeff
I do
just a
too.
little bit further down.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited in that boat too. And now we're going to get to see what they find over there. They're going to be doing some digging. We know there's been boat parts found, right? I mean, there's been other things pulled up in the, different pieces of wood that indicate a boat, metal strapping that was burned real bad in an intense fire. So we know that
find
there's
wood at the end of last year in the bucket, if I remember correctly.
Jeff, the whole thing makes sense to me because you have, because of COVID, you have a limited amount of time, and the question is, if you have 3 months or whatever the window is, before winter, maybe 4 at most, what do you want to focus on? And the focus has always been in the Money Pit area. You can do little side explorations on the island, but I think it's a smart move. I hate to see anyone leave the island because I'm a big fan, but by the same point, I think it was a smart way to do it. And if you look at it from that standpoint, you have to ask yourself, do we divide our resources, or do we retool and just laser focus on that 1 or 2 or 3 things? And that's what they did.
That
makes
I'm
sense
also
to me.
excited about lot 4 and the hatch and everything. It's just a back door. I mean, you got to have a front and a back door somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm kind of excited to see if there's anything there.
Yep, me too. What were we going to say, Colin?
No, I'd say it's your point of what were the resources. I mean, that water and isotope testing, and there's clearly they zone right in on where, what are we looking, what's the primary focus? I'm sure artifacts and historical information is certainly fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think gold is the, ultimately, if they can dig up some gold, and clearly they've got signs, and they've been able to nip at the science and technology and everything, and it got narrowed down, and they clearly put that big 10-foot case on. They put it in, and they didn't do it just on a guess and a maybe.
No, and that's the interesting part about it is that we keep seeing, like you said, they punched 400 plus holes in that whole area around the island, and they wanted to be sure where we're going to put these. Now, we don't know how many they got put in. We were thinking maybe just 1. I'm thinking maybe there was more than 1 they actually got in. They had a plan for 4, but we don't know for sure how many cans they actually got in last year. But, if they didn't get 4 in, maybe it's because they found something.
Yeah, and I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. I kept overlaying because every week I would take pictures of, so as I'm not there every day, and yes, they can move, but from my angle at which I was taking them, and I overlay the time period, it looks like it was 1 can. They had other material that cans in order too, which again made me very excited that they put it in a late period of time. Again, the first week of October it went in, and they were finished up by the end of October. So they smashed that can down. They pulled out whatever they wanted to find, and was like,
here it is.
Ta-da.
And and knowing that it probably takes about a week to put a can in, you would think, to get it down to 100 and some feet. I mean, I
would like to know how long that would take. Just curiosity.
Yeah, we'll have to get one of them to tell us. We'll have to get somebody to tell us how long. I think.
So that's it would know.
And John, let's be honest. That new hammer grab is actually the perfect size to pick up the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh no!
Without tearing it apart.
Only a couple scratches.
I mean, I tell you what. When I was watching that last night, and they were talking with the ladies, and then we were now talking about the money pit, I got a little nostalgic, and I'll tell you why. I got going back. I'm thinking of the Restalls, the Blankenships, the Nolans, Dan Hensky, the tigers of the group, shall we say.
Mhm.
And how far has it come since then? How far has it come in the last 2 years?
Right.
Let's say. But I mean, I went back on all these people that put all this work in. We would not be anywhere near where we are now without those people doing that work.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yep. And with that said too, is that with the finds that they have, and we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago when we first found out about the Mi'kmaq, people, finding some artifacts there, and as Colin, you and John and I, we all discussed that the fact that you do want to find out, because anyone that had come over back then over to Nova Scotia, Oak Island,
Mhm,
Nova Scotia,
mhm.
are going to interact with the First Nation people. They're going to have to interact with them in some way, shape, or form. So you want to get some of that information. You want to get those
Mhm.
details
Yeah,
because
sure.
there's a whole line of of investigation or research that can be done on how they interacted and who they interacted, how all this went down. I want to know. I mean, that's part of the story, is it not?
110%.
I mean, and the Mi'kmaq go back a long way and a long ways inland also.
Mm-hmm.
They're
So
everywhere. So it's yeah. I mean,
They were even in Ohio because when they were mentioning the Serpent Mound, that Serpent Mound in Ohio was a Mi'kmaq, was part of the Mi'kmaq. So I
was
mean,
it?
you're
That
talking,
I'm not sure of, but yeah.
Well, if the New Ross site is what it's purported to be, which I think it might be, I'm very strongly about the New Ross site. There's no way you make it that far inland without the help of the First Nation. It's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
It is.
you just don't make it. So there's a story to be told. I said it once, I say it 1,000 times. The Mi'kmaq are part of that story. They are part of the story of Oak Island.
yeah,
And I think it's important.
and it's an important piece of the story.
Absolutely.
It is.
110%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an important part of the story. So we definitely want to know that. So, and I think in the end, I think that the Laginas do too.
Yeah.
I know that they're probably a little bit, they hate to see a lot more of the island being slowly nipped away from them to, that they can't search. And so therefore they're doing what they're doing on this. But I know that Rick wants answers on that as well. He wants
Sure.
to know, how that goes.
And
And
Jeff,
who's involved.
who's to say the pottery that they're finding, things that they're finding, weren't acquired in trade with explorers, and
That's
they
a good
very
point.
easily could be
could
trade.
be.
They begin using them to eat,
Yeah.
and there would be some trading going on.
Absolutely.
We know in the Gulf, the St. Lawrence Seaway, there was a lot of trading. We
Yeah.
know there was trading even in the Native American side of things.
Mhm.
So this was big. And I do believe that those pieces could have easily been acquired in trade.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
As I remember, I think on our last episode, someone had kind of put in the comments, well, why would they be out on the island? Boy, I'll tell you, for fishing and lobster fishery and shellfish and so forth and around, I mean, it's really plentiful in the this time of the year. The lobster fishery's underway. In the springtime, like us locals, we won't even though the weather's good, I generally won't even put any of the bigger boats in the water
Mhm.
until the end of May, 1st of June. There's so much lobster equipment and so forth in the waterways.
Nice.
You can imagine
Oh,
way back
wow.
in the day,
Mm.
the native communities would be coming out, they'd be going further inland in the wintertime, coming out in the springtime.
Hmm.
They'd be fishing out at the front of Gold River. They would have been scouring the beaches and fishing and in the salt water and shellfish and all that stuff. I mean, it's a very plentiful area. And of course, they would be trading with people that are coming up the coast and
Of
going
course,
up
sure.
the Mass and
Sure.
coming
That
and going.
makes sense to me.
Yep.
They
And,
would have
and,
been trading.
teaching the people that have come over
Yeah.
how to do it also.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
Yep.
100%.
Yes, exactly.
Anyone that would have shown up, they would have needed a hand for equipment and so forth, for repairing boats.
Yep.
Where are the fishing? I mean, you walk off the shore here and go for a walk to the woods. It's dense, thick, hard, rugged country. And, you got to know the area. Imagine a boat
Sure.
coming in and where do we go? Where do we get food? Where do we get equipment and all that stuff.
I love it.
That was let's see who said that. That was Wanda. Wanda wants some lobster from up there.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah, so it is going to be an important part of the story, as we said, and I think that they will want to get to that.
Yeah.
It's just hindering them a little bit right now in some of this what's going on the island, and I think, and like we said, they still have Laird there. Laird is still doing his job that he has done since he came on the island and he became part of the Oak Island team.
I believe he's been there 5 years now, if I remember him saying correctly.
At least 5, yeah. At least 5 years, yeah. So, and he's going to continue doing what he has always done. So it's not stopping. They're not going to start doing a Dunfield and start digging holes and without having somebody there to keep an eye on things. They're just stopping the archaeology section of it where they're working in little areas, because honestly, they don't really need to right now. I think that's part of it too. They could keep that team working and heading on down there doing what they're doing, but right now I think but I want to see them focusing on some of the other things, like Colin said, getting up there in the money pit. I think, John, you alluded to this as well. The money pit is the main focus.
Correct.
These other things are the offshoots.
Correct.
Like the ship that could be in the swamp, digging that up, finding out the hatch over on lot 4, which
But for good news for all the insiders, though, it never stopped.
Yeah.
Don't believe the fake news. It's really happening out there.
Yeah.
These guys are working at it, and I think there's a lot more cool stuff that's going to come out the next couple episodes for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it was said, it's a treasure hunt. It's a treasure hunt.
Yes.
And Rick is such a purist. He really wants to tell the story. And what they were doing is telling the story, and you have enough information from what they've gathered to tell the story. Now we know about the stone road. Now we know about it heading to the money pit, and those are all clues. So I think at this point, it might be a good stopping point and retooling and rethinking this, because it is about a story. But the treasure quest has never stopped. The money pit has never stopped, and the fact that they're focusing on it, I think, is a good thing. We may, as viewers, see them explore those areas again. Who knows? I don't think that's the last we've seen of those areas for sure.
Right.
But I think this is a good way. And again, Rick is always about telling the story, and I respect that. It is about telling a story. What happened on Oak Island, and it's more than just one thing. So I appreciate those efforts. I mean, it really helps us really flush out what really happened. So
And the word, and locally in the Maritimes, the boys were definitely in Newfoundland this summer, late in the summer. So I think there's some more connections coming out for, again, traveling up and down the seaboard and explorers. I think there's going to be some more connections revealed from the information that they found this summer.
Well, the Portuguese 1500, 1501 were in the area of Newfoundland, so that makes a lot of sense.
Well, there's 100%. The Vikings had
and the Vikings,
Right, the Vikings.
establishment in Newfoundland, and even further up the St. Lawrence, even up into, I won't say into Michigan, but quite a far inland up the St. Lawrence Seaway and far inland in Canada and the U.S. as well.
Sure. It's all up in that area, so that makes perfect sense to me. So you're either talking Norse or you're talking Portuguese, or you're talking both.
No, I don't think the Vikings were digging 180-foot holes in the ground.
No,
I didn't say that. I said they were in the area.
Yeah.
No, they were too busy.
I don't think they'd have a
pondering.
need to. And that goes back to the whole thing about why somebody would need to dig a hole that deep. Why would you need to go to that extent to hide something? If it wasn't mining going on the island, which I know there's some there's some people thinking about that.
I know where you're going, Colin. You still think there's and I don't disagree with you.
That is, it's a very super plausible.
It is.
I can't dispose and say that's.
No, I know you can't. The money pit, and when you said that, I went and researched mining techniques, and the money pit description matches mining techniques. And then I still can't get out of my head the shiny gold thing that we saw, the first couple of seasons. What was that? Was that a gold remnant? And
Well-
if that's commiserate with the type of gold they were finding, that was a pretty significant chunk of gold sitting there.
Yes,
they
it
found.
was.
Who was it that did a significant mining operation and took back to Europe, and it was pyrite, it was fool's gold.
A pyrite.
That's right, but that was, I can't remember which person it was, which explorer it was, but they had dug up and took a significant amount over, and to find out that it wasn't. And what are there a lot of traces of in Oak Island and really in the surrounding area? There's a lot of pyrite around, a lot. I think I got one from when I was a little kid. We found the beach. It's like a size of a big cube. Like it's quite large. Stuff is quite significant around here, prevalent around. So anyway, mining might be one of them. That's all I'm saying.
No, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's a pit mine. That was the common mine that they used. And guess what those mines were prone to? Any ideas? Flooding.
Right.
Just right on cue with the money pit. I mean, it's just amazing flooding. Now, the money pit could have been, have a dual function. It could have hidden treasures, like upwards, but it also could have been a place where they were mining real gold.
But don't get me wrong. Of all the places
to
go mine gold on an island in Nova Scotia, seems like the most ridiculous place ever. I mean, Lacey Mines and Gold River is not that far away. There was gold operation.
And 475 pounds, 7,616 ounces to be exact. So that's what came out of Gold River. And so that was in the mid 1800s. There was a huge gold rush there. So we know there was gold in the area. Now, typically like a pit mine, and I went back and did some research. A lot of gold is associated with quartz. Okay. And I actually got one of these treasure stones just to check it out. And I got the one that looked like quartz. And when I did a close up, it's either pyrite or gold in there. I'm assuming it's pyrite. But a lot of times you would take the quartz and you would crush the quartz, okay, to get the gold veins out of the quartz, and you'd separate it. So, if there's any quartz on that island that would have had, gold in there, that's another possibility, or gold veins. Yeah. And then didn't Dr. Spooner find something that was commiserate with gold veins at one point, Jeff?
Yeah, he did. I'm trying to think.
What's the stuff? Maybe someone knows out there. It was a specific mineral that went along with finding gold, and that was found on the island as well.
And not to be Debbie Downer, but he did say when they got those gold isotopes that it could be naturally occurring.
Correct.
But the silver added in there kind of,
right.
The old Oak Island twist on you.
Right.
It could be normal, but
the silver was not normal.
Right.
Oak Island is known for their twist.
Right. And the fact, and this kind of takes it away from the mining aspect, but the fact that you are finding, at least in my mind anyway, you are finding pieces of metal now that they brought up that have found gold samples on them.
Correct.
And those gold samples are mixed with copper and silver, which gives you back to that rose gold or the Tombaga gold.
The Spanish vein and
right. So that
and,
is not going to be, you're not going to find a mix of natural gold veins with copper and silver mixed into it. So
no.
That is true story, but you still have that shiny gold thing, which has never been explained.
That's very true, because when they went down, that was when they went down and put the camera down in C1, and they found that was back when it was just a 6-inch pipe.
6-inch hole.
Yeah, a 6-inch hole, and they found that shiny gold object on the side, and it was on the wall. That's what gets me.
It was just
it looked 2 or 3 feet long. It looked 2 or 3 feet long,
It was pretty good size, but it was in the side wall, and I'm thinking, if it's coins and stuff, why would it be in the side wall?
Okay, right. Jeff. I'll just throw that out to everyone. Did that little shiny thing or the shiny thing in the wall, did it look worked or did it look natural? In your opinion?
In my opinion, it looked natural.
It looked natural to me.
Yeah.
Jack too. So if it's natural, that it
goes
back. Didn't they go back down? They really couldn't come up with.
They never found it.
They never found it again.
Yeah.
They just fell to the bottom of wherever it was. Probably landed the same place the Toonie did, and that was that.
Yeah, they never did find it.
The bottom of the spoils.
Did you want to take it?
Sorry. That diver will never live that down. I'm sorry. People go down in infamy that way.
Before we wrap up the show here today, I thought I'd go back. I know that one question at Robot, or I thought it was kind of interesting. It doesn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about here tonight. But I thought it was kind of interesting nonetheless. And I think it was he purchased a 1632 Quattro Bible, an Eddington Bible, in a thrift store in northern BC. King Charles I. Any evidence he buried the king's treasure on Oak Island before his execution? What do you know
No,
about that?
but I can certainly do the research into that question.
All right, so look into that one.
No, I will look into that. In fact, I have a couple of researchers I can run that past, as well as myself, and we'll research that. Not to my knowledge, I've never heard any stories about that. Is it possible? Well, I have to vet it. I have to see if there's any legitimacy to that. So I'll vet it, and I'll probably have an answer for you sometime next week.
Oh, Dana is asking me a question here too. This is and you know, Dana, I have tried. Dana says, "Hey Jeff and crew, would you be willing to increase the size of your computer cursor during the show? I would love to you to use it to identify items on your my awesome photos." Hard to see. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
And honestly, on my computer, the mouse pointer is about that big. It really is. But for some reason, when I'm using StreamYard, what you see is this small little pointer. I don't know why.
I can relate to that because I just recently now, since my surgery, can barely see it right now. I couldn't see it before.
Yeah, it is. It's actually pretty big on my computer. I made it bigger thinking that was going to help. And then for whatever reason, as I'm using StreamYard, when I'm pointing at a picture, it's normal size and it's real small. I even tried making it red or whatever. So, well, let me work on that. I'll keep working on it and see what I can do to try to make it a little bit bigger for you guys. Yeah. Or a laser pointer, but then you wouldn't see it at all. Yeah. So, let's see. So yeah, well, good show tonight. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up, guys? I want to dig up that ship in the swamp.
I look forward to the next couple of weeks. They could get very interesting very quickly.
Yep, I think so.
I mean, we could get a lot of movement in a hurry.
Oak Island is worse than any drug ever devised. I can't help myself. I live here. Like I live like literally 5 minutes from the island, and I watch this and I watch the show.
We have millions
my
of
brain
people
up through my hair starting to
Oh my god! Do you start shaking a little bit and your hair stands up when you miss an episode, Colin?
Oh, I can't take it. I can't.
Well, we got to get you. We can't wait until you get your until it warms back up again in the spring and you get your boat back out there. Because I tell you,
absolutely, man, he's gonna have to
those
go to
pictures that you take, like this one here of you know the just real quick, that one right there of the workers in the swamp. You know, we have.
Colin, do you timestamp everything on those?
Yeah, usually when I make the posts, I'll make them real time. Actually, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to throw this one last up just
okay.
For wishful thinking, if I can find it here. So here we are.
Oh, that is Oak Island.
Oh, it's definitely Oak
Island. We know, and that's the thing about it is that while he's looking for that, is that we know because of the pictures that he sent or got us earlier, back in September timeframe, that they were working in the Smith's Cove, that they were drilling, and they dug what appears to be a big hole there, because we saw the mound of dirt and they had a pump working right there sitting next to the mounds of dirt. There was a pump working. Now, why would they have a pump working in a hole that wasn't going to be, it was a large hole? So that was pretty significant. All right, let me bring this. I'm gonna download this. All right, he just sent me another picture.
All right,
I'm going to bring this up real quick here. Let me close that one. Let's see here.
Not to drag the night out, but you kind of try to figure out where exactly is this placed.
All right, let's go. Let's bring this up. All right.
So that is October the 2nd. So this is about a month from the episode we just watched. This is about a month out as far as timeline goes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see where, the Dunfield spoils when you had that over aerial.
Right.
And where the original drill rig and the tent was. It looks like this is right around where that tent was. Remember the picture you showed earlier tonight, Jeff?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna have to so I don't kill everybody by flipping through pictures. Let's see here. You talking about this picture here?
Yeah. So when you see that other one, that's kind of, I'd say, between, it's got the little mini excavator there, like the Bobcat and the tent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
right here.
almost right in the corner of the tent is where that big caisson is jammed in the ground.
Really? Now that would be way over from C1 because C1's right about here. No.
And that's why I just wanted to put the photo just to see what everyone else's opinion on relation to where that is and versus where the caissons actually popped in the ground.
Now we can't see, I don't think, and I'll bring that other picture up here in a second, but we can't see these piles, these caisson pilings. We can't see those, but maybe we can see like this up here. This looks like a cargo container.
Yeah, you can see it right above in the other picture I just sent you. You can see the caissons laying on the ground, and that container's right behind it in the background.
All right, let me see here. Where is it at? Oh, no, not that one. I just had it here. Hold on.
Investigative eyes out there.
Yeah, for sure. Let's say, let me get that again here real quick. Okay, so all right, here we go. Let me just bring this. Oh, there you go. You got it. Okay, so there's that cargo container back there. Yeah. So it's definitely to the east of the cargo container. Yeah. There's that yellow or orange box that's sitting up there. So it's in between the two, in between the cargo container and that yellow box. And it does look like it's not back by the memorial, back by the I think that's the woman's memorial.
Memorial, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're going to have to take some side bets from everybody. What's it going to be? What's the one caisson?
Yeah, let's see. All right, let me go back to the other picture. See, so there's that yellow box or orange box, and there's the cargo container. So I think it's more over this way.
Do you think?
I think so, because if you see and it's hard to tell from the angle you were in the water, but there's that cargo container, and here's that orange box, and it's almost in between them. And if your angle, I would say just about where that truck is sitting.
I may try to maybe later or tomorrow. I'll throw a couple of the old pictures up on the Facebook feed and let everyone kind of see if we can guess exactly where the can's going to be. I'm sure in another couple of episodes we're going to see it in a little bit more clarity.
Sure.
Right. But isn't it amazing that one can't hit, if that's the case, though?
So there's that orange. You see the orange, Jeff? There's the orange box to the right. Go back to it. It's down and to the left of that orange box.
Yeah, it's a funny angle, and I got
I mean, because the caisson obscures part of the box, so it has to be in front of it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yep. So it's definitely out in front of it, but you got that too. I don't know. So you've got people already jumping in and say, yes, get your pictures out there, Colin.
And Jeff, I just emailed you or text the searcher shaft, a close-up of the searcher shaft. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the close-up of it, but
wow, there it is. Yeah, let's see.
So when we were on the tour, I just snapped a picture of it.
Here's a different one too.
But yeah, that caisson's definitely down to the left.
I may melt your brain. I'm just sending Jeff another picture and just on the angle.
Yeah,
it's very deceiving.
It is. It's really hard to tell, but I would say because you can't see this pine tree. You can't see it because I think it's being covered by the caisson.
Yeah. I'll send one more, and you want to stick whatever up, or if not, we'll stick some on the site later on. But it'll. It changed. And then there's another one from further out, but you look in and zoom on it, it kind of gives it a very different angle as well.
There's that searcher shaft.
That's a close-up of the searcher shaft.
That's right in the woman's memorial right there.
Yes, correct. It's the dead center, and that's what it looks like.
Wow. Was it? Could you look down? Could you see down in it? Was it pretty
No,
deep?
no, they on the tour they wouldn't let you like that was from a bit of a distance, but I had a close up
Right.
lens, so able to zoom in on it. But that's exactly what it looks like. When it rains, it fills with water. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's flooded over.
You
But
weren't throwing any gold coins in there, John, were you?
no gold, no.
A wishing well.
Yeah, yeah, but that's
Where all the
wishing
gold
well,
isotopes were coming from. It was John throwing silver in
Throwing
there.
toonies at the bottom and see if they drift.
Yeah. Did you send another? Oh yeah, you did. Okay, let me see what you got here.
Okay, what do you have?
Colin sent another picture. Okay. Oh, he has a couple more here.
Oh, cool.
Let's see. Oh, all right. Let's see what. All right. Let me see if I can get this one up. I'm going to close this one. All right. There's that container back there, right here. And that, I think, is that orange box right there.
And see right down below it, that's the triangle down there, eh? See a little stack of stones down by the water?
Right here?
Yeah. And in between, just to the right of that, they were drilling holes, pile of holes.
Yeah, I know. And that's going to be another interesting to find out exactly what they were doing there this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Anyway.
that and the Smith's Cove side, I'm really curious why they were doing that.
I think they were doing sampling to zone in on the that gold and silver area. They really went as far out as they could. We're doing sampling, and then to try to narrow it back into where they were finding this ice stuff. Personally, that's what I think they were doing. But
you can see the old, like the picture of the old Dan Blankenship drill truck back there.
Oh, is that what that? Oh, yes.
Back here in the corner. My little tiny mouse moving around. You can't really see it. I know. I'm really going to try to get a bigger mouse for you guys. You should see it on my screen. It's a lot what it looks like on here, but
wow.
I don't know why it does that. But yeah, interesting to see. I think that's the case. I think it's closer to that yellow box than we think. So it's closer, like on a line. I would say almost like right here where that water truck is.
Right.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Right about where that water truck is sitting, because it's definitely not over here where they're at.
Well, Jeff, look at the bottom right of the picture. You see how the road's turning? Bottom right
down here.
Right. Yeah. You see now. Pull the other picture that Colin took from the water. We can do that. The first one. Yeah, that one. You see how it turns, and the road would be right in front of the caisson. So that would be the right area of what you were pointing. If you think about how the road would turn and then follow through,
well,
and
it wraps up and around.
Yeah, it wraps up and around and then towards. So you can see it goes down and then towards Smith Cove. That's how the road runs. So that road in the bottom right wraps around and it splits down again to the shoreline, and then a portion of it goes down into the Smith Cove area.
Right.
Yep. So that's
I think it's right there. Is where they
somewhere in that area. Yeah.
Right about there. Huh. Interesting. Well, we're going to be finding out for sure. He has one more picture here. Let me see if I can bring this up.
That would be where it would be for sure.
Okay, this one here. Oh, this is a bit different of an angle. Let's see here. All right, let me download this. Yeah, this one's hard to see also, but yeah, there's that cargo container back there. Yeah, I think I'm in the right spot. I think it's pretty close. There's the piles.
Yep.
The rails of the cofferdam. I think that's them right there. But well, we're certainly going to find
that stuff is still there.
Even the secret spy photos will drive.
Awesome. So good.
You got to get a drone. I'm telling you, you're going to have to get a drone, Colin. We need another.
Trust me, we thought about it, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't. Trying to be respectful of the island and
I know. It is good of you to do that. It really is. And you go out on the weekend and not during when everybody's doing their thing and all that. Yeah, that is very respectable. We had what was it? Jer Henderson, I think, was the one that was giving us all the drone footage from last season. And then of course season 8 or whatever back in that time frame, and then he got hired. I think they hired him on the island so that he would quit, he wouldn't be allowed to do, they get him under NDA and he wouldn't be able to do his pictures anymore, his drone. So if you do, they're gonna, if you get your boat going around or somewhere, they might hire you to keep you from
Now I'm thinking, all right, sorry guys, I got some more missions for the spring. I'll haunt them to death to get me on the
Because they
island.
use their own drones for the show.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we know they got one.
Yeah.
Or at least one or two or a couple of them anyway, because they do get a lot of aerial shots, so that's always good. Yes, and what Kate said, thank you for the pictures, Colin, because we love these pictures because it's a view that we don't get naturally from from anybody, quite honestly. What we know, Karen Public Cover gives us some pictures once in a while too, and that's great. It gives an insight the season before it starts of what's going on out there, and that's what's really the fun part about it. That we can speculate about all that.
Gives
All
us
right,
something to talk about before the show starts.
exactly. Gives us something to talk about. Exactly. Yeah, when we're all jonesing for the show to start. All right. Well, there's going to be another good coming up this week. We're going to see that in the swamp over there, digging up our boat for Jack. And then we have, let's see, Jeff Irving is coming back. We're going to have Jeff Irving back on the show because him and John, you guys, seriously, should have heard going on in the pre-show meeting. We Jeffrey Irving and John Edwards, and I was just I'm back listening to these two guys, researchers, going, we're going to know what it was like. And then we got the show started, and I mean, we didn't scratch the surface of some of the stuff that they were talking about, and it was really, truly interesting. So we got Jeffrey Irving coming back on the show. We had Carmen Leg scheduled for 18. Carmen has an issue where he needed to push off. We don't have Carmen just yet. To fill that, we got Jeffrey Irving coming back. John's going to be here with me for that one. So it'd be me and John and Jeff Irving, the 18th at 2:00 on a Saturday. And then, of course, we got our regular show coming up again next week on the 15th. And we'll be going over episode number 7. Episode number 7. We'll be covering episode number 7. And we're going to get a look at what they're doing in the swamp, hopefully. And I cannot wait to find out what they do in Smith's Cove later on, and also in the front down on the South Shore there in front of the money pit.
Sure.
I want to see all that. So, and then we also got a show coming up we have one scheduled for the 8th of January into 2022. And I don't know, are we giving this out yet? I think we're going to have Lynn Picknett and Clive Prince. I don't know who they are up, because they were, matter of fact, I just showed a picture of Lynn Picknett. I just showed a picture when we had the Lost Relics of the Knights Templar, Carl Cookson and Hamilton show. He was talking. So, yeah. And Gretchen is going to be my co-host for that one. So check out who they are, because they're very interesting. And they're going to have a lot to talk about when they're here on the show. That's on the 8th. January the 8th, and that's going to be probably, I think we're doing that one at 10 a.m. Eastern time. That's going to be an early one again because of their time difference over in the UK. Good coming up, folks, and we really appreciate being here with us. We had a good time. Call John and Jack is again for being here. Linda and Jan, thanks so much for working so hard out there. Tom Burns, and we're going to get Tom Burns on the show. Brenda at the meeting, so he's got his rig ready to go. We're gonna get Tom Burns on here. Maybe next we're gonna on that. All right. Again, thank you guys. Appreciate you, and thank you all for being here with us tonight. And again, don't forget to click on that button when you're out there YouTube. And we will see you again. No show this Saturday. I'm off this Saturday. Gonna heading out with the boys Saturday, but we'll be back here next Wednesday at 6:30. Guys, have a great rest of your week. We'll next time right here on the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. Bye-bye now.